Welcome back to Bigfoot Lake, my friends. If this is your first time here, it's nice to have you with us, and I'm sure you're going to fit right in with the rest of us. Tonight we have 2 encounters to share. And speaking of encounters, do you have a story to share? Perhaps of Bigfoot, or maybe the mysterious and the unknown? I'd love to hear from you. Type up one of those fancy email things and send it on over, bigfootprepper@gmail.com. I'd be honored to share it with the stumplings. So enough of that. Pick out your favorite stump and pull it up close to the fire as we dive right into our first encounter. Back in the winter of 2001, my youngest son and I were on our way from Boise, Idaho to Medford, Oregon. We had taken a car trailer to his old place in Boise in order to haul his non-running Jeep to his new place in Medford. We hit an area of heavy snow in the southern Cascades around 2 a.m. It took 45 minutes or so to get down the mountain. We had, of course, been drinking coffee to stay alert. About 25 miles west of the pass, it became obvious that the last few quarts of coffee had to be drained. We stopped at a wide spot in the road near a summer tourist haunt, deserted in winter. There is a gas station and ice cream joint on the west side of the road, closed this time of year, and no town or settlement within 30 miles. This is tall timber country and unsettled. Across the road is a small parking area for the ice cream joint. It is paved and about 200 feet wide and about 80 feet deep. I pulled in, and as I stepped out with 45 on hip, it occurred to me in a flash that grabbing the 590 Mossy would be good. As we walked to the far end of the area to be well off the road, the hair on my arms and the back of my neck stood on end. The area directly to our front was open with a depth of 50 yards and a width of about 100 yards. The night was clear and cold, 8 to 10 inches of snow on the ground, and with a moon almost full, so we could see quite well. While standing there and taking a leak with my son about 15 feet to my right, I saw, as if springing from the earth in front of us, across the open area, 10 or 12 creatures moving rapidly back and forth in sort of a thatch weave pattern. These things, not human men, were close to 7 feet tall, thin, bipedal with long arms, medium-length gray fur, and damned fast on their feet. I brought the shotgun up and slid the safety off as my son was drawing his .45. I don't know if I can adequately explain the overwhelming feeling of menace, but here goes. I had been operating on pure instinct since I stepped from the pickup. The rotten feeling hit me a split second before the things arrived. The feeling, the instinct, was that we were prey and subject to a very bad death, and to be slaughtered and eaten. Not a logical process. This was a gut feeling and massively overwhelming. As they were moving around in front of us, more appeared and mixed among them, all the while running about fast in front of us. My son and I were backing towards the truck. I would not present my back to them, and some of them peeled off right and left in an encirclement movement. They were rolling in fast from the sides now. I could smell and feel their presence. We got to the truck, loaded on adrenaline and ready to kill, as we both knew we were in grave danger. We piled into the truck and locked the doors. I had keys out and ready. As my butt neared the seat, I had the engine lit and trans in gear and gas pedal mashed in one motion. Adrenaline is great stuff. As we fled, yes, fled, something very close by let out an undulating scream of rage and pain. I believe one or more of the group had gotten really close to us in their pursuit, and I ran over the foot of one of them. Yeah, they were that close. We rolled onto the highway, and I told my son to watch the bed of the pickup, as well as the trailer. He already was indexed to the rear with the shotgun. We hauled ass for at least 20 miles before the feeling of grave danger started to abate. The feeling that nailed both of us, as we discussed soon afterward, was one of being prey and soon to be slaughtered and eaten. I am not easily led and neither believe or disbelieve all the Bigfoot, ghost, and werewolf stuff. In fact, I am skeptical. My son was speaking with a coworker several months later who had grown up in Prospect, Oregon, about 30 miles south of Union Creek, where the incident took place. He asked Jake if he had ever heard of any strange goings-on in that area. Jake went ashy white and pretty much retold the above tale. He says to avoid that place at night. A family friend, a 25-year retired cop, not given to flights of fancy, and an excellent observer, had a tale very similar from a year before. I told my wife of this event, of course, and she looked at me at the beginning as though I had developed a third eyeball in the center of my forehead. This was from shock. She did believe me, but did not wish to hear any more details. She said the tale gave her chills. Me too, as I write this. Hair on back of neck and forearms is sticking up. I have not gone back to explore, and would not without a large group of shotgun and flamethrower equipped men with me. My son and I are both sane, sober persons, and not taken to hysteria. We were very wide awake as things transpired. We saw and smelled what was there. As a sidebar, neither of us heard footfalls from the creatures. They were silent until I heard one as we were getting the hell out of there. To my knowledge, and I have researched, there is nothing that matches these creatures unless one considers old legends and folk tales of were creatures. So that concludes our first encounter, and I'm not sure what the heck they saw that night. 10 to 12 of something very big, bipedal, covered in gray fur and very fast, with more that joined in, moving in a pattern. I'd love to know what you think. So leave me a comment, hit that thumbs up while you're at it. It helps us out quite a bit. Yeah, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that one and any possibilities of what they ran into that night. So let's dive straight into our second and our final encounter of the night. My brother-in-law and I were headed east on Lucia Falls Road when we heard something on our left, sort of like it might have been a shooting star. It was still light outside, but barely. He thought it might have been a light airplane crashing. He was a medic, so we pulled over to the side of the road and got out of the truck and listened, but heard nothing. No cries for help, no sounds of metal burning, silence. This area is due south of the city of Yakult and east of Louisville, Washington, but only a stone's throw from Molten Falls State Park proper. We had been over on Yakult Mountain Road earlier and had come down this way via Northeast Kelly Road where it intersects with Lucia Falls Road. Thinking we should help if a plane was down, we worked our way through the brush and trees to where the railroad tracks parallel Lucia Falls Road. I told him one of us better run back and get a flashlight in case it is a downed plane and someone is hurt. He yelled he was going on ahead to see if he could find the source of the flash of light and look for survivors. At this point, I stopped and turned around real quick to race back to the truck. I have a high-powered spotlight that is portable in the back, and my mind was on hoping the batteries were still good. When I turned to make my way back to the truck, I could swear I saw a big man higher up on the road near the truck, just standing there. But I caught my foot, looked down for a minute to get a better grasp on where I was stepping, and when I looked up again, he wasn't there. I called out to him, but got no reply. Limping a little, I finally got to the truck. The batteries were working fine, and it was almost completely dark by this time. I grabbed my wife's cell phone off the seat, tucked it into my pocket, shouldered a loop of rope just in case, and grabbed the lantern. I don't remember seeing another car on the roadway there, but I remembered wondering where this man had come from that I had seen on my way up from below the apron of the road, on my way up to the truck. He was nowhere in sight. I hurried on to catch my brother-in-law and wondered too where he was, because by now I was barely finding my way and it was getting darker. I called out to him, but no answer. I moved on slowly toward where I thought I had left him at the railroad tracks and looked both ways on the tracks, but didn't see anything or my brother-in-law. I called out again and listened intently. There was no sound of anything, not wind, not crickets. So I cupped my hands around my mouth and called out my brother-in-law's name in both directions of the railroad tracks. But I heard nothing. I saw nothing, and began to wonder if that man figure upon the road was him a few minutes ago. But I couldn't figure how he would have gotten there from where I left him. I picked up a rock and placed it in a strategic spot on the rail of the tracks to mark where I should head for the road, and began walking east on the railroad tracks, aiming my lantern to the left and right of me, looking for him. Now I'm thinking something happened to him because he wasn't answering. Darkness fell quickly as I pressed on, uncertain I was going in the right direction. That flash that we thought we had saw was in the direction I was headed, but I wasn't confident it was going the right direction. I don't know how far I walked on those tracks, but my ankle was beginning to hurt, so I stopped to loosen the strings on my shoe and call out for John again. Still no answer, and now I'm growing concerned. Should I go back and wait at the truck or press on? I listened, but heard nothing but the sound of my own breathing. I checked my watch, and it was already after 8 in the evening. I called out for John again, then turned to head back to the truck to phone home, when I remembered I had my wife's cell phone in my pocket. The lantern scanned the tracks and terrain left and right of the tracks as I came back upon the marker rock I had placed on the rails. No sign of John, but maybe he went in the other direction, I thought. So I left the marker to the road and walked the tracks in the other direction for about 15 minutes, calling out for him all the while. About the only thing I noticed was the quiet. Where was my damn brother-in-law? It's roughly 9 at night now, and no sign of John. But I didn't want to leave him behind. I sat down, pulled out the cell phone, and dialed home. I tried to explain where I was and what had happened, but I couldn't explain where John had wandered off to, and I told the gals that I wasn't leaving here without him. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard footsteps coming and the disturbance of gravel on the railroad ties. I flashed the lantern around and down the tracks where I heard the footsteps and thought I saw John coming. "John!" I yelled out several times. Then I told the girls he was coming and hung up the phone. John looked a mess. "Where you been, buddy?" I asked. He reached out and put his big arms around my neck and said he was glad to see me. "I didn't know you went in this direction, bud. Where you been and what happened to you?" He just hung on to me and said, "Can we get me back to the truck right now?" I asked, "Are you hurt?" "No," John replied, "just scared shitless." "What happened? You've been gone over an hour." We started walking back towards where I had the marker rock on the rails. John sort of leaning on me. "Man, you're not going to believe this." "Believe what?" I asked. "What the hell's going on with you, bud?" "I saw something," he said. "Something huge." "Yeah? What? Is there a plane crash?" I asked. "I gotta sit down," he groaned. "My heart's coming out of my chest, and man, I didn't see any plane." We walked with arms around one another's shoulder till we got back to my marker rock on the road, sat down in the gravel, and turned off the lantern. John sat there in the dark for a few minutes, with his head down between his knees, trying to collect himself. He was visibly shaken. He told me there was something out there. He said something man-shaped, very tall, but looked like the thing had hair on it. Then I lost enough light to tell much, other than it was stood off to the side of the tracks, and in a hulking manner, me facing it, and it facing me for a long time. I heard it breathing. I swear I heard the thing breathing, and I froze. Man, I just froze stiff. My mind shut down, and I couldn't think what to do. "I thought I was seeing things," he continued. "It was something nightmares are made out of, and I don't recall I ever saw anything or a man that big before, and I never want to see anything like that again." I started to back up and run, but I couldn't see well, and I kept tripping on the rails, cross ties and such, and falling down. "I think I'm all skinned up. Let's get home." Back home, he recounted the same story to the girls. He was all cut up on the knees, skinned up like, and bleeding, with one bad place on the side of his right rib where he said he fell on something, maybe a railroad railing or one of the ties. My brother-in-law is a big man, tall, and he describes this thing he saw as huge and hairy. Then I started wondering about the dark figure I saw up on the road that I called out to when I went back for the flashlights. My son and I went back down to the area the next morning and walked 2 miles in either direction, but found nothing. No sign of any plane down, no fire, no nothing. From John's description, we thought maybe he had a meeting with a Sasquatch, but we aren't sure. We never did know what the flash of light was. Whatever it was, it scared him. And he's a seasoned hunter. He's a son of a slew of seasoned hunters, and he doesn't drink. I don't know what he saw. I didn't see or hear anything other than the figure on the road, but I believe my brother-in-law did, and he believes it must have been a Sasquatch. So that concludes our second and our final encounter of the night. And just wow. Can you even imagine being face to face in near total darkness with a creature so close that you can hear it? You can hear it breathing. Truly, this is the stuff that nightmares are made out of. Let me know your thoughts on this terrifying encounter in the comments. And also, what was the flash of light in the sky? Possibly any connections between this creature and that flash of light? Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. And again, hit that thumbs up while you're doing so. And I guess, friends, with that, we're going to call it a night here at Bigfoot Lake. Thank you for pulling up a stump with us. And as always, we'll see you next time here at Bigfoot Lake.